Hello everyone, this is Nick Bruner here from Preview Animation Studios, and I am now making tutorials, so I'm very excited. So I started off with this ocean scene that you can see right here. I thought I'd start off pretty simple. Ocean scene is really easy to create in Blender. So yeah, this is the finished render result that I have achieved. So we're gonna go ahead and recreate this scene in Blender. So let's go ahead and hop into Blender right now. Okay, so now that we are in Blender, let me just make sure. Okay, I am recording. Alright, now that we are in Blender, we can go ahead and get started. So you can use the default cube, that's fine. Just go to the modifier panel and add in the ocean modifier. And yeah, this is what you should get. So we're going to change some of the settings here. We're going to repeat it along the X 2 times, just to make sure that we have enough ocean in our shot to work with. So I'm just going to center this up on the scene as well. Going to go ahead and delete the default lamp. We don't really need that. And we'll do the camera later. Okay, with the ocean selected, we're going to go ahead and change the choppiness to 5. And we're going to change the resolution to 20. Okay, so that'll give you nice resolution there. And then we're going to change the scale down to a 0.7. And we're also going to change the alignment just a couple. I think that should be good. I think the choppiness is a little too high now. There we go. Alright, and we can also affect the scaling by hitting S then Z. Guess I should turn on my screencast keys. There you go. Alright, so S then Z, and we can affect the scaling. So I think around in there should be good. You want some nice high waves. I found that that worked well for this scene. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate this ocean right here. So just duplicate, Shift D, then GY, and move that along the Y axis. And then we're just going to turn the resolution down to 10 and everything else to 0. Because in the ocean, in a normal ocean, you have the horizon line that just goes out to that straight line. So to mimic that in Blender, we're just basically adding in plane. So go ahead and scale it down just a little bit. We don't need it that big. And make sure that it is underneath the first ocean. So just move this along right there. Alright, that's good. And go ahead and repeat that along the X again, just so we have enough ocean in our shot that we can work with. Okay, so let's go ahead and add in the sky right now. So I have the add-on images as planes enabled by default. And just gonna grab my sky here. Here we go. And go ahead and check emission for whatever kind of sky you're gonna use. And here we go. Alright, so here is our sky. It is a plane and it's already set to go in Blender. So we're just going to move that back, scale that up to fit the scene for right now. We'll scale it when we get our camera set up. Just go ahead and scale that like that. And we don't want any of the ocean in the shot, so just move that below. And the photographer of this picture actually made it crooked. So just fix that like that. That should be good. And I also want the sun over on this side. So to do that, just rotate it along the Z by 180 degrees. And there you go. Now it's on that side. Alright, let's go ahead and get our camera set up here. So Control Alt Numpad 0. That'll snap the camera to a view. Alright, and we're just going to move this in here. Get a little bit of a different shot. Here we go. Alright, so onto the camera settings. We're going to use a lower focal length just to get a full shot. I'm also going to change my dimensions to be a widescreen format. This is my movie format that I've been using for my film actually too. So Kind of gives a cinematic feel to it. So that's why I'm going to use that. I'm just going to double tap R, and you can move the camera like that. So I'm just going to get some more sun in the shot. Come up a little bit. That should be good. I always select Red 1 4K. I don't actually know if it renders in 4K, but I always do that. And I always turn on the rule of thirds just so I can line it up correctly. Alright. Alright, the depth of field. Okay, so you want a short depth of field. About, I think about 10 should be good. And I always use f-stop. And for this one, we're just going to set it to 3. And that'll give some nice depth of field, especially with this wave in the front right there. Alright. So that is pretty good. So now we got the scene set up. Let's go ahead and do the materials. Okay, so the materials for the ocean, let's go ahead and go to the materials, and since we duplicated it, there's a 2 right there, so we can just leave that. We're going to go ahead and change it to glass, and we're going to set the roughness to, I think it was a 0.2 that I used for my final result. And the index of refraction for water is 1.333, so you go ahead and type that in, and this will adjust the brightness of the ocean. So if you want a darker ocean, just set it down in there, but I'm just going to leave it at default, and you can name that if you want. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on the lighting. That's pretty much the last thing we need to do. Then we can render it and composite it. And then I'm actually going to show you how to animate it as well. So let's go ahead and kill that, and then let's go back to our sky. And if we were to go into rendered viewport shading right now, you would see a dome effect, which is meaning that the clipping is too low. It's also using my CPU to render right now, so it's quite slow. Let me just change that to my GPU so it hurries up and renders quickly. Alright, just turn the clipping up to something high, and there you go. Alright, you can also see that with the add-on that we used, it enables the light path is camera ray, and what that means is that it becomes a shadeless material. The way to make it completely shadeless is to uncheck that it doesn't actually cast a shadow onto the scene. So you always want to do that for your skies. And if you want the sky to actually emit light, you want to just go ahead and remove that. And there you go. There's our ocean. So like I said, we'll reposition the sky here just a little bit. And that is good just like that. Okay, let me just bump this up as well on the brightness, but we can do that in the compositor. That is pretty much it. So I'm actually going to increase that all the way so we have lots of light bouncing off. And I'm also going to check border rendering so it only renders what's inside the camera. And that should be good. The border rendering just helps with the speed of your computer. It doesn't slow it down. It doesn't render all this stuff off frame. It just renders what's inside the camera. Alright, for our rendering, we'll probably do about 400 samples because this scene can be quite noisy with the different materials that it has. And I always check full global illumination as well. And that is pretty much it. We can add in a sun effect, but you can see that it already gives a nice effect even in the default scene in the modeling process. I mean, this doesn't even have special effects to it right now. So you can just see that it has a nice glowy haze already, which is really cool. Because when I was doing my scene, I wasn't really expecting that, and then I go rendered viewport shading, and it was like, whoa. So it was pretty cool. Alright, let me just check that everything else is good to go. May just go down to the water a little bit more. And just, if you're having a hard time selecting your camera, just go ahead and scale it up. It'll be easier to select. Just a little tip there for you. Alright, I'm just going to go right there. Now normally you wouldn't want to go this close to the edge of the ocean, because when you animate it, the ocean's going to be like, the waves are going to be like up in here. But I'm just going to do a still shot for right now, and then we'll move it later. Okay, yeah. I'm determining if I want to add in a sky in the Blender program or in Photoshop. But I know not all of you probably have Photoshop, so I'll just do it in Blender. So the way to add in a sun to your scene is to add in a circle. Let me just zoom in on it there by hitting period button. It zooms in on the object that's selected. Another tip there for you. I always increase the vertices and make sure you fill it. That's very important. Then just rotate that along the X 90 degrees. There we go. So it's on its side like that. Okay, go ahead and just shift select layer 1. The object that you're doing the effects with needs to be on its own separate layer. So that's very important. Alright, just gonna line this up in here. Look at it through the camera. Want a nice sun right up in there. Maybe a little bit bigger. Down over the waves to make it look like the waves are blocking the sun. Unfortunately, with cycles, it doesn't have the Alt-Z option under the passes category. I don't know if it'll ever get it, but that's one thing that I liked about the Blender internal, is that when you check Alt-Z, your special effect object, like a sun, would actually go behind an object. But I don't know if that's ever coming back into cycles or not. But anyway, with the sun selected, we're just going to do an emission material. About level 2, that should be good. Make sure it's completely white as well. And let's go to here, add in another layer. Just name this as sun. Just check that it renders in layer 2, and this one you can just uncheck layer 2. I don't think it really matters though. But make sure you have both layers selected or else it won't render. But that's pretty much it. Yeah, so we are on the rendering process. So go ahead and hit render, and my computer's not that bad, so it won't take that long. But yeah, I'll see you when this is done. Okay, so it has finished. It wasn't too long, it was about a minute. So let's go ahead and go over to the compositor. So just hit Control left arrow and then Control up. Let's go full screen on the node editor window. Let's go ahead and check use nodes and backdrop. Alright. Okay, so Control Shift left click will add in a viewer node. So that's a little tip there for you as well. Okay, so I like working in a long array of nodes. You might have downloaded one of my blends on Blend Swap and been like, man, there's like this long trail of nodes. That's just the way that I've always worked with the nodes. So, alright, first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to color and color balance. And we're just going to change the colors on this a little bit more. Alright, so this is the main coloring of your scene. So I'm just going to change that to be a little bit more orange. And then you want to complement that with the other side of the color. So you want complementary colors on your shot. So just a little orange and just a little blue. Okay, let's go ahead and add in a hue and saturation value. I always add in this node just to make my colors pop more in my render. Sometimes it's, you know, you don't want it, but most of the time I add that in. Just makes the sky pop a little bit more and anything else that's in the shot. Alright, I'm gonna also add in RGB curve. I use this for brightness. There we go. Let's just bump up the brightness just a little bit. You don't want it too bright because we're going to be adding in a filter and a glare. It's our fog glow. So just change that to fog glow. There we go. Alright, I like to use the biggest size that I can get. And I also changed the threshold down. You don't want to go too overboard, but you do want some nice glow. So that's a little too much glow. You got to keep in mind too that our sun's going to be here, and that's going to have a nice glow right there as well. So we could probably leave that about 0.7, 0.8. Just a little bit of an effect, but that's pretty good. Alright. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add in a lens distortion. Just going to drop that in right there. And I'm going to turn the distort to a 0.1. Yes. And then this is going to do the fisheye lens effect. And then you just check on fit, so it actually fits the render still. And then you can see that it actually kind of bulges out like that. That's pretty cool. I'm also going to duplicate that, just uncheck that, set that back to 0. I'm going to add in some dramatic aberration, about, I think that should be good. I see a lot of renders that they go way overboard on this, and it's not even that much on normal cameras. So you can see here, it's just a nice faint effect. So I'm acting like this is a cinematic camera, and with that you're not going to have that much dramatic aberration. At least I haven't seen it in all the movies that I've watched. So sometimes you can over dramatize that effect. I can't talk. And yeah, you just have to look at your scene and determine if it needs it. A scene like this doesn't need that much, but it does need some. Okay, let's go ahead and work next on the sun, one of the last effects that we need to do. So just go ahead and select your sun layer. And if you did it right, you should just see a nice white dot. And you can add effects to it. So we're going to add 2 blur nodes to get a nice hazy glow. I'm going to set that to fast Gaussian, relative, always use X. Seems to work the best. And I'm going to choose 5 and 5. That should be good. Alright, and then we're going to duplicate that. Drag that original render layer in there again. And then we're going to go bigger. So about 10 and 10. Okay. And then to combine the 2 blurs together, we're going to go color mix. And then drag them into this node, and then change that to add. And there you go, you have the 2 blurs put together into one add node. So there we go. Now we want to add in a streak and then the lens flare. So let's do the streak first. So let's go filter and glare. Let's add this in here. You're actually going to want to duplicate this add node and get the original white dot back, and then set that into the top and the glare into the bottom, so you have the original dot back. Alright, and then we're going to set that threshold pretty much down all the way, so you can see the streaks starting to come in. Let me just move this around so we can see what's happening. Alright, let's just turn that all the way to 0. And then let's turn up the fade amount. That's going to be longer streaks, like that. Let's turn up the iterations to about 4 or 5. That should be good. That'll give you longer streaks. And then we just want to do that nice 2-streak effect. So that's cool like that. Let's turn the fade amount down just a little bit more. Okay, and then we're going to add in some more color in the color mod. Alright, and then let's rotate that a little bit. Let's go 15 degrees. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now to do the lens flare, same thing. Duplicate the add node. Just get a new glare node in here. Set that to ghosts. Quality to high. Let's plug the original dot into the glare node. And then that into the bottom again. And turn the threshold down to 0. turn up the color modulation just a little bit, and then wait for it to composite. There we go. Okay, so you can see the nice blender lens flare there. Just gonna add in some more iterations. That's good. Alright, so that's the sun pretty much done. If you wanted like thinner streaks, you would have to turn your sun or scale the sun down more. This is just streaking at how big the sun is, so I don't actually think that there's a way to scale that down, but we'll probably do that for the final render, the final render. Alright, and then to combine both the scenes together, you're gonna do just one big add node, so like that and like that. Alright, and wait for it to composite. Alright, there we go. There is the sun right there. So that is good. You can see the lens flare. If you want more of the sun effect, just turn up the factor amount, and that'll give you more. Nice big glow right there. Yep, there we go. Alright, so just make sure you plug that into the composite so it renders. And yes, last thing we need to do is the vignette, of course. So I do it, I don't know if this is an old school way yet or not, but this is the way that I've always done a vignette. So lens distortion, distort to 1, converter math, plug that into the top, value to 0, type to greater than, then add in a filter blur. There we go. Value into the image port, type fast Gaussian, relative X, and 30 by 30. And then we're going to go color mix to combine all that together. Take the blur, set that into the bottom, and the original scene into the top. Make sure you plug that in there too. Alright, and then set that to multiply. There we go. So there's the vignette setup. Alright, just wait for it to composite. There we go. Alright, it's too much of a vignette though. Don't want to go overboard on the vignettes, so wait for it to composite. There we go. Alright, so that is basically a final render. One other node that you can add in that I added in mine too, just the sharpen node, just to make everything more sharper, obviously. So that was just filter and then filter. Okay, so just set that to be about a 0.1. Don't want to go too high, obviously. So let's wait for it to composite. There we go. Just adds a little bit more sharpness up on the top of the waves. And that is pretty much it. So just plug that one into the composite now. So that is our node setup. Alright. So that is pretty much it. So coming from this raw render, which actually still isn't bad because of that nice glow effect that it does. I love that. Taking it through the compositor. I call it the compositor car wash. This is just making your scene look better. Hence, a car wash does that as well. But this is the final rendered scene. So you can just pull that up with the viewer node and then just save the image as you would normally. But I'm just going to show you how to animate it real quick. So we can do a nice camera animation. I'm just going to add in some more frames so we have more time to work with. About 500 should be a nice shot. Just zoom out here so I can see the entire timeline. Okay, so the camera, we're just gonna double tap R and just gonna go up on my shot as well, because like I said with the ocean, you don't want it coming, like the waves coming across the camera like that. Like, I'll show you if it happens, but we just want to add in a shot, maybe like this, just a nice pan up. So I'm going to do the location and rotation, then jump to the last frame by hitting shift right arrow, and then just double tap that again on R, maybe go forward a little bit more, and then come down on the shot. Alright, then I lock rot. So now we got a nice camera motion. And to make sure that the speed stays the same all the time, we're just going to go to the graph editor. And all you have to do is just hit V, hovering over this area right here, and just do vector. So the speed is always going to be consistent. This is with the camera selected as well. And you can see there that we just have a nice camera motion, and it all looks good. Alright, let's go ahead and work on the ocean next. So all you have to do is just at the beginning of the animation, just hover over the time and hit I, and then jump to the last frame again, and then set that to be a higher number, maybe like 15 or 20. Probably just do 20. But the higher you make that number, the faster your waves are going to be. So as we scroll through the animation now, you can see that the waves are moving and they are reacting well. Alright. Yep, no problems. Yeah, it looks good. Alright, so we don't need to animate this one. This is just acting as the horizon line. But you might actually want to just bring that image down a little bit. See a little bit of that ocean still there. But that is pretty much it. Yeah. So again, this is the final. Here we go. Whoops. Lost my viewer node. That's weird. Alright, just gotta wait for it to composite. Okay, there we go. Make sure I'm recording. Alright, so this is the final render result. So I hope you learned something, and go ahead and animate your ocean however you want and then render it out. But that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you like it. Let me know how I did. This is my first tutorial, so I'm going to be doing a lot more. But that is pretty much it from me, so I hope you like the render result as well. And yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching and have a great day.